Welcome to Kingdom Conversations. My name is Dr. Carmen Barnes, and this is where we have real talk, real faith, and real transformation. So today's episode is for the person who has been asking God, why did this happen? Why did that door close? And why did that relationship change? Better yet, why did that opportunity fall apart? Why did the plan I prayed over not happen the way I expected? And why did I feel led in one direction only to find myself rerouted? So today's topic is when God interrupts your plan, the revelation of divine disruption. So there are moments in life when God will interrupt what you plan because he sees what you cannot see. And while disruption can feel like confusion, loss, rejection, or even failure, sometimes disruption is heaven's way of protecting your future. Some things did not fall apart because the enemy won. Some things fell apart because God would not allow you to build your future on something unstable. Let us look at Proverbs 16:9. A man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. We make plans, we set goals, we even write visions. We prepare, we pray, and none of that is wrong now. But the revelation is this right here. We may plan the road, but God directs the steps. There is a difference between a plan and a purpose. A plan is when something makes sense to us. A purpose is what God has ordained. A plan may be good, but purpose is God breathed. And sometimes God interrupts a good plan because he is leading you toward a greater purpose. Disruption can be a divine protection as well. There are doors you cried over that later became doors that you thank God for closing. At the time, you even may have felt rejected, right? You may have felt overlooked. You may have felt confused because you knew you had the ability, the heart, the gift, and even the desire, but God sees beyond the opportunity. He sees the atmosphere connected to it. He sees the people connected to it. He sees the warfare connected to it. He sees the price connected to it. He sees what that door would have caused your peace, your family, your integrity, your calling, and your future. Sometimes we ask God to open the door, but God sees that the room behind the door would drain us, delay us, or even damage us. So God does not only protect you from what is bad, sometimes he protects you from what is premature. A premature blessing literally can become a painful burden. There are things that you may have been even gifted enough to do. There are some of us who are very gifted, right? But not graced to carry it in that season. That is why discernment is so important, right? Just because you can do something does not mean you are assigned to it. Not every open door is God, not every closed door is the devil, and not every delay is denial, and not every interruption is destruction. Sometimes God is preserving you, and God will interrupt what you are trying to force. There are things that require faith, but there are also things that we must stop trying to force because we are afraid of waiting. We force relationships because we do not want to be alone. We force ministry connections because we want access. We force business opportunities because we want money. We force platforms because we want to be seen. We force timing because we are tired of feeling behind. But anything you have to manipulate to get, you may have to manipulate to keep. I think I want to say that again. Anything you have to manipulate to get, you may have to manipulate to keep. God does not need manipulation to fulfill his promise. And we know the word says that manipulation is as good as witchcraft. So imagine operating in that unknowingly. You don't even realize it. You feel like you're doing a good thing, but you're really doing yourself a disservice. If God ordained it, he knows how to establish it. This does not mean we do nothing, right? Faith requires movement. Faith requires obedience, and faith requires preparation. But there's a difference between obedient action and anxious striving. Obedience says, God, I will move when you say move. Anxiety says, God, I have to make this happen before I miss my moment. But you cannot miss what God has ordained for you by obeying him. You may miss a counterfeit opportunity. You may lose access to people. You may even outgrow a former version of yourself. But you cannot miss God's purpose when you remain surrendered in his direction. Divine disruption exposes what we have built on our identity, or should I say, what we have built our identity on. Sometimes a disruption hurts so deeply because it touched something we had unknowingly tied our identity to. Maybe it was a title. Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was a church, a leader, a job, a platform, or even a business or a role. And when that thing shifts, we feel as if we have lost everything, including ourselves. But God may be revealing you are not who you are because of what you serve and where you serve. I'm going to say that again. You are not who you are because of where you serve. You are not who you are because of who approves you. You are not who you are because of what you produce. Your identity is not your assignment. Your assignment may change, your location may change, your connections may change, even your visibility may change, but your identity in God remains secure. God will sometimes allow a familiar structure to be shaken so that you can discover whether your confidence is in Him or in that structure. This is why Hebrews says that everything that can be shaken will be shaken, not to destroy you, but to reveal what cannot be shaken. When everything around you changes, God is still God. When people leave, God is still present. When plans shift, God is still sovereign. When the old ways no longer work, God is still leading. A detour can be an appointment. In Acts chapter 16, the Apostle Paul wanted to go into a certain region to preach, but the Spirit would not permit him. Imagine having a heart to serve God and being stopped by God. Paul was not being disobedient. He was not running from God. He was trying to do ministry, yet God redirected him. Then Paul received a vision of a man from Macedonia saying, "Come over here and help us." What Paul thought was a delay was actually divine direction. If Paul had forced his original plan, he may have missed the Macedonian assignment. And this is important. God may close one route because there is an assignment waiting in another direction. Your detour may not be a delay. It may be an appointment. The thing that feels like a setback may be positioning you to meet someone, reach someone, build something, or become someone you could not have encountered on your own original route. Do not curse the detour before you ask God what is on the other side of it. God interrupts to upgrade your capacity. God often disrupts our routine because routine can become a comfort zone for some of us, and comfort zones can become cages. You may feel comfortable where you are, but God may be calling you higher. You may have mastered one level, but God may be preparing you for another. You may be faithful even in your current assignment, but God may be expanding your capacity for greater impact. The interruption is not always because you failed. Sometimes God interrupts you. Sometimes God interrupts you because you have outgrown the old wineskin. How about that? Sometimes He interrupts because you have outgrown the old wineskin. And remember, His word says that you can't pour new wine into old wineskin. Old methods may have worked in previous seasons, right? I hope you're understanding that. They may have worked in a previous season, but they may not carry the new thing that God is doing right now. And that's where some of us miss it. The question is not, why is everything changing? The question is, God, what are you teaching me to carry differently? Because when God shifts the season, He often shifts the strategy. You cannot always take old mindsets into new territory. You cannot always use the old patterns for new assignments. You cannot always carry old fears into new levels. And you cannot always keep old loyalties when God is calling you into a greater obedience. The interruption may be uncomfortable because it's requiring a new version of your obedience. I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, what interruption have I labeled as failure that God may be using for direction? Am I grieving something God is actually protecting me from? What have I been trying to force that God may be asking me to release? Is my identity rooted in God or in a role, relationship, title, or platform? What new strategy may God be revealing in this season? What if this detour is leading me to a divine appointment? So I speak to the person who feels like their plans have been interrupted. Do not panic because the path changed. God is not confused about your future. He is not late concerning His promise. He is not intimidated by what fell apart. He is not limited by who walked away. He is not finished because the plan did not unfold the way you expected. There are things God is closing because they cannot go with you. There are things God is moving because they cannot carry you your next season. There are patterns God is breaking because they cannot survive where He is taking you. There are plans God is interrupting because He has greater things than what you have even imagined. You're trying to hold on to something, but He's trying to release something even greater into your hands. The disruption may be painful, but it is not pointless. God is still directing your steps. He's still preserving your purpose. He's still building your capacity, and He's stretching and increasing you in that area. God is still aligning you with destiny. So do not fight the hand of God when He is trying to redirect your feet. So this is Kingdom Conversations, where we have real talk, real conversation, real transformation, and real faith. I want you guys to go ahead, follow, subscribe, and even share this episode with someone who needs to hear this. God's interruption may be the beginning of your divine assignment.